Hi everyone, Good from Runchat here. In this video, I thought I would walk you through the process of developing a workflow for creating thumbnails for YouTube videos. It's something that we've been doing manually at Runchat and think is probably possible to automate. And instead of just showing you this as a kind of finished process, this is a behind the scenes look at how we might build something like this. So I have got a screenshot of a Runchat running in Rhino. And this is from an earlier video that we made where we got Runchat to write a script for voxelizing meshes that we generated in Rhino. And now I want to make a thumbnail for this video. Now, I guess the really basic way to do this is we can just use Gemini 3 and we can say, use this image as a reference to create a compelling YouTube thumbnail. Include the text prompt to voxels. And we can maybe crank out two variations, and we want 16 by 9, and it's a YouTube thumbnail, so we only want relatively low resolution. So this is I guess, the no effort, no polish way of doing this. We're providing very limited context to the model other than just this screenshot that we've made. And the model is then going to produce, like the model being Gemini, is going to produce probably quite generic thumbnails. It doesn't know much about how we want our thumbnails to look. It doesn't know anything about our brand. And as a result, I'm expecting these to be, well, there you go. Fairly cliched, let's say, typical YouTube thumbnails. I kind of like what it's done. Like it's able to completely re-edit the image if it wants to. And, honestly, both of these are not that bad. This one's kind of fine. All we want is we want a little bit more control over the aesthetic here. So maybe what would be worth doing is something I don't love is I've just taken an arbitrary screenshot here. What I'd kind of like is I'd like to pull out all of the assets from this screenshot as separate little parts of an image, and then we'll see if we can get Gemini to recombine them for us. So let's try doing that. We can probably do this with Gemini 2.5. I don't think we need to use Gemini Pro for this, but we'll see. So here is a screenshot from Rhino with a viewport as well as a Runchat workflow. Generate a new image that with a white background that contains individual assets from this screenshot, e.g. the Rhino model, nodes, UI elements, clips of text, etc. Place each of these assets, we'll place these assets in a 3x3 grid, let's say. And let's see how it goes with that. I guess we might as well have a go with some other models while we're at it, really. Let's see how we go with even just Flux. Actually, no, we'll run it with Gemini. We do have a challenge here where we need to tell the model that we want a nice square aspect ratio, I think. We probably will need to do the same thing with Gemini Pro. Okay, that's pulled out some elements. I reckon we're going to need to use Gemini Pro for this. Delete that one. And we're almost definitely going to need to change our aspect ratio, but we'll see. Okay, that's definitely much better. It's pulled out all of the elements. Let's say we can make it on a square, and we'll say it doesn't need to be a white background, and then we'll run that. So my thinking here is I just want to create a image where it's slightly easier for Gemini to pull different assets to create my voxels. Now, the other thing that we might want to do is provide some examples of thumbnails. So I'm going to go to YouTube's Runchat, and let's see if we can find a thumbnail image. So we've got James has made these ones. I wonder how we get that thumbnail image. I might just pause the video and grab. Okay, I've downloaded that thumbnail. Sorry for the quick cut. And so now we have a reference image. Now we want to improve these thumbnails, I think, but for now, this is just going to give it a kind of a vibe. So Gemini 3 has successfully gone and grabbed all of the different parts of this image. It hasn't quite put them all in a neutral background, but I think it's maybe going to be enough for now. And this time, let's try using both of these images with the same prompt. So we're going to copy this. We can get rid of that edge. We're going to plug in our images. And we're going to say, here is a reference YouTube thumbnail that establishes our brand, fonts, colors, etc. Use this as a guide to create a compelling YouTube thumbnail using assets from the grid. Include the text prompt to voxels. All right, and 16 by 9, let's hit go. So I'd say this is about to finish. What'll be interesting here is to see if it can match this style but use these assets. And that seems pretty much exactly what we would hope it does. It hasn't quite used this same font, and we've still got this SketchUp image here. But these, and we've got things like, the assets are around the wrong way and things like that. But this is definitely not too bad. It's along the right track. We'd need to tell it to clip out that background behind our node, and we need to tell it to get rid of the SketchUp render. But I think we can probably do that just by grabbing this and refining it a little bit. So we're going to go and use that with another Gemini node. Now, if we want to go back and forth, we can use the agent nodes to kind of chat with the model and iterate on it. And we might even be able to use Gemini 2.5 image for this. But for now, for this video, the first thing I'm going to try is literally just connecting it back up to Gemini 3 again, making sure we're on 1K res, 16 by 9. And I'm just going to say, remove the SketchUp logo. In fact, we want to add the Rhino logo, right? So let's go find that. Maybe we can find a decent black and white one. Yeah, that one's not too bad. Let's use that. So we'll chuck that in here. And we'll say replace the SketchUp logo on the thumbnail, the Rhino logo. Make sure that the image of the logo, in fact, that's kind of all we want to do. And let's just hit go. So let's see how that did. Absolutely perfect. So it's even gone and cropped out the white background on that image, which is nice, pretty much what we want. It's used our and hasn't made any other changes to that image, which is also exactly what we want. So for this little demo, that kind of shows you how we can make a workflow where we go from a simple screenshot to some assets, we go to reference image, and then make subsequent edits to that if we need to. I think in the next video, I might have a look at, instead of using our reference thumbnails, we might do a little bit of research to try and work out which thumbnails are going to perform the best and iterate on this design.